happy podcasting day, everybody. Gentlemen, how's it going?
Grand. How art thou?
Seahawks are 500. I mean, that's, I think, a really positive thing for this year.
Yeah, I agree.
Tied for first.
Yeah, tied for first. We don't have the tiebreaker, but...
Yeah. It's way too early to go on tiebreakers.
Yeah, too early to concern ourselves with that kind of moment.
We haven't played other teams and stuff. I mean, it literally doesn't mean anything. That's not like an excuse. It doesn't mean anything.
We're first.
Yeah,
we're first.
Tied for first for now.
Points. We have the most points scored of any team in the NFC West, and also the way worse points against. But we're not going to talk about that. Well, we will, but
yeah,
we have the most points scored.
I believe by default so we're technically in third place in the NFC West because San Francisco is 2-0 in the division, while the Rams and the Seahawks are both 1-1. So you know what?
But
I will take that. I will take that. I'll take that as an early season success.
Yeah,
dude, it's awesome. I mean, and surprisingly, very surprisingly, shockingly, heart-attackingly, we may have the best quarterback in the NFC West.
Yeah, I saw a stat that between them, at the time, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Matt Stafford had only had like one game where they had thrown for, I think it's something like 300 yards and like multiple touchdowns. So, and then they said Geno has like 2 or something like that. So,
yeah, I mean, Geno's numbers look suspiciously like Russell Wilson's career numbers in Seattle, which might give somebody pause.
I think if you were to say, like if someone said, hey, here's the Seahawks record in 2022, here's their quarterback play, and you didn't know it was Geno, you think like, oh, Russ is having an okay year. He's, having a stereotypical, like, efficient Russ year,
yeah, I mean, I think somebody would say, like, oh, looks like the defense is letting Russ down again.
Right, exactly.
And that's not what's happening.
There'd be clear reasons why the team wasn't better than 3-3, and it would be like, well, it's definitely not Russ's fault, it's someone else. But in this case,
it's the points allowed.
In 2022, it's the Geno Smith show. So it's kind of weird. That game was definitely different, but I enjoyed it. It was. I would say it's the 4th game in a row where, like, the entire game, I'm like, man, this is a really good game. It's not like they're not blowing anyone out. It's competitive the whole time. There's interesting things happening on the offensive and the defensive side, and it was probably one of the best defensive performances we've seen all year.
Yeah, I would say I don't think there's any question that it's the best defensive performance so far. Unless I'm forgetting a game.
I mean, the fact that they kept the Cardinals offense to 3 points, a lot of that I feel like it's not necessarily the Seahawks defense, but a lot of like just bad coaching. Like the Seahawks have lucked out that they faced Nathaniel Hackett and Cliff Kingsbury, who are they're just adamantly going for it on bad downs. Like there's a lot of people out there that are very pro go for it on 4th down, don't kick field goals, don't punt, just go for it on 4th down, because they have it in their mind. It's like a loser mentality not to always go for it. And I think this is the fallout.
I think they don't understand analytics, and I think they think that analytics says to do that by taking the most simplistic approach to it.
Right. Analytics tells you what has happened. Analytics does not tell you what's going to happen.
And it doesn't tell you, like, okay, so maybe 40% of the time people made it, but was that evenly distributed, or did certain teams make it, and certain teams made much less than that? Did it tell you about the matchup? Did it tell you about what time in the game it was?
Does it tell you if you have injuries on your offense or defensive line? Is there key personnel?
Does it tell you, yeah. I mean, does it tell you if you're made for, like, kind of that short distance grinding kind of thing, or does it tell you that mostly your offensive line is finesse guys because you're meant to pass, and now you have to get 4th and 1, and you don't have to get personnel for it?
Does it tell you whether the fans have shoes on their head or not?
Oh, God.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Shoes on the head.
For those of you that don't know, That is apparently some new rally cry for the now ousted Seattle Mariners. I don't know if it's just the Seattle Mariners or if there's like it's happening across the world.
Over, become a Pacific Northwest thing.
It's weird. I would never put a shoe on my head. I know where my shoes have been, even my cleanest shoes.
I got a shoe on my head right now.
Well, you know what? Zeb just keeping it real. Props to Zeb.
I just want to make sure we win this podcast tonight.
That's true. That is true. Well,
always beat.
The Seahawks bounced back with a great win over division rivals, the Cardinals, and returned to 500. And they now turn their attention to former division rivals, but now they're the Los Angeles Chargers. Our rookie tackles were pressured all game long, as was Geno, but our rookie corners made impactful plays all day as well. As reports of Russ continue to linger in the news, we are hearing more praise for Coach Carroll because of it. This is the Hawkscast.net podcast. I think it's important that we just kind of like start straight into it. But before, as we mentioned, this is the Hawkscast.net podcast. I'm Sam. With me is Zeb and Ross. Check us out on Twitter at Seahawks Podcast or Seahawks Forum. Go to the website at Hawkscast.net. But Ross, I want to start with you. I feel like we just got to jump into it. And topic number one, we asked about Geno. Now I need to know, is Pete the truth? We're 3-3. The preseason pundit said that Seattle was the worst NFL team in the league, that we had the worst quarterback, not even like the 32nd best quarterback. We had like backups on other teams that were better than Geno.
Yeah, honestly, like Geno was like listed like 36th or something in some surveys. So.
Is Pete the truth? Is that what's setting us apart from everything?
I mean, Pete's far from perfect, but I'm a disciple and of his management style and philosophy, and I think a lot of people are reevaluating Pete and what they thought of him, and maybe the dynamics of what's been happening in Seattle for the past few years. And like I just said a second ago, like Geno's numbers look a lot like Russ's did. So maybe there was something. Maybe there was something to the system. Maybe there's something going on. Maybe the old man knows what he's doing at least a little bit. I mean, it's hard. Like everything is so interactive in football and everything. There's so many moving pieces, but I don't think it's a coincidence. And I haven't. I mean, you said a second ago some people are starting to talk good things about Pete again, and obviously I live in a somewhat of a bubble, a removed bubble, so I don't get as much contact. But I haven't heard that yet. But if that's happening already, that's good. I think by the end of the season, people are definitely going to have to like reevaluate. If you've got the bottom tiered by what people thought is your talent, but you're even 500, you're doing something right. I think this is. I mean, it's funny because so many people just kind of automatically assumed this year would be the year that Russ is sort of vindicated, and we see how much he was held back, but it's not turning out though. It's looking awfully like not necessarily the reverse, because I do think Russ is talented and everything, but there's something to the madness. Maybe that all that quote unquote old fashioned thinking isn't as outdated as it seems, and it's really remarkable too, because pretty bad defense to keep yourself to 3-3. And traditionally the Seahawks haven't always had the best weapons on offense, and now they do. They have two, maybe three. Walker looks like the real deal, and DK's a superstar because of his personality. Lockett's a superstar by numbers, but it's not just them. I mean, they're using three pretty nondescript tight ends to matriculate down the field quite a bit. So it's pretty remarkable, the flexibility that Pete Carroll has shown, I think. Like I said, I've always been a believer. I've always been a believer, so I'm kind of biased on the whole topic. I mean, I'm the one sending Pete's books out to people and stuff, and going door to door. And have you found Pete Carroll?
So earlier you said that Pete is not perfect. Talk a little bit about that and how people maybe use that to say, like, this is why people or the team should have moved on from Pete, and maybe why they were wrong.
I mean, to me, there's two categories of criticism of Pete Carroll. and one of them is legit. Well, there's kind of three categories. Jesus, how long can I make an answer? I'll try to keep it short. There's three categories of criticisms of Pico. One is like his legitimate things he does wrong that are like really actually wrong, and that is things like, for example, he does show some favoritism. He does sometimes stray. You know, I think people get older and they get a little bit more conservative about certain things, a little bit more stubborn about certain things, and that's just to be had. And like, I have, you know, let me put that to the side for a second. So there's some legitimate things. There are some things that he does wrong that he accepts it for. Like, it's technically wrong, and it is wrong, but he's willing to pay the price because it has other benefits other places. This came up earlier this year in a game. So Tony, I don't know if he's listening today, but Tony's often on here. Tony and I ended up with quite a long argument. I think multi-day argument in the earlier game this year. I forgot who was against, but like Pete let the clock. The other team was going to score, and Pete was letting the clock run down instead of calling timeouts. And with a smarter play would have been to assume the other team's going to score, then like save some time for us. And instead, Pete just like let the clock go. Actually, it might have been the first game. Maybe it was Denver. And Pete just letting the clock go. Yeah, like a lot of people will tell you, and a lot of coaches will tell you, you got to call the timeouts because they're probably going to score. So you got to have time left. And Pete's willing to take that on the chin because he's willing to give the message to his defense, those rookies in game one that are out there, and his defense that's out there, like, I believe in you. If I call these timeouts, it means I'm telling you guys I expect you to lose. I'm expecting you to not do your job. I'm expecting you to fail. And he'd rather live or die in game one with those rookies and the first game of the season in particular with the message of, yeah, we're going to win this game with you guys out there. I believe in you. All you have to do is make one stop. So that's a flaw in most people's eyes, and I'm on Pete's side with that one. Like, there's an immediate effect of things and there's a long-term effect, and sometimes he's playing the long game, so he'll do something wrong here, but he's worried about the message, or he's thinking about the message, or he's thinking about the long-term effects. So that was the second kind of error. And there's the third type of error that I think that people are just fundamentally wrong with. They don't get it. Like people always say, like, he runs an old-fashioned offense and he doesn't know analytics. But in fact, if you look it up, the Seahawks were the first team in the NFL to have an analytics department, and he opened it. It's just that he's using real analytics, the actual things you can actually discover. And his analytics tell him, like, real things. For example, the base principles of the game. If you ever have a turnover in a game, it lowers your chance, because that's not dependent on personnel or whatever else. If there's a few situations it's different, like a Hail Mary at the end of the half, but generally, if you have a turnover, it lowers your chances of winning this many times. If you have this many possessions versus that many possessions, your chances of winning go up or down, and you average 8. If you lose one possession, you just lost 12.5% of your possessions. You just gave them more, and that's a huge thing. And I don't think people think about it. That's a 25% swing there. And he's always thinking on those terms. And that's not the analytics people love to talk about, where they love to talk about the fact that the running backs don't matter because they don't understand statistics and what the statistics say, or that you should always pass on this situation. But again, no. Not if you've invested your money in a run specialist left guard, but your tight end and your wide receiver on the left side are undrafted free agents because you wanted to make the other team lose $50 million in meaningless things on our elite cornerback. I mean, all that comes into play. But he really, I think, has introduced analytics that matter. Possessions, when time of possession, things like that. He hasn't always succeeded, but he's got a much better handle on the analytics that really matter, that nobody talks about. It's weird.
So maybe that's the emphasis of that's Pete's truth, right? Pete's
Yeah,
truth is control the
to
ball.
me, like that's the most frustrating thing about Pete to me is that, or the criticism. Like, I'm constantly fighting with people that don't understand. Like again, there are legitimate things you can criticize him on. I really do think so. Like, but instead people get hung up on like, oh, he just punted again.
Right.
Well, yeah, just punted again because he's sending a message. Oh, well, we don't have the elite defense anymore. You're right. And if you tell them that, they'll never will be. If you tell that rookie cornerback that you've thrown out there, I don't believe in you, well, he's not going to get better. But instead, from day one, you told him, I believe in you. And look where the rookies are. They haven't always been like that because we haven't always had a chance to get talent. But you've got the right guy and the right talent, and you tell him the right message. I mean, what the one thing at least some people acknowledge, he's a motivator. You can get the best. We have not a great talented roster, and we're 3-3 because he's told the people, and he's trying to put him in position to win, and he's trying to shorten those games, and he's trying to keep it under control. And if you just do that and follow it, yeah, then you do have, I guess, Pete's truth, and it's the truth.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Zeb.
All that.
Zeb, we're gonna bring you from the back, and we're gonna pull you up to the front, and we're gonna ask you: is Pete the truth?
Yes.
How is he the truth? So here, let's set the stage. Let's say Papa Zeb from like your dad from week 2 or 3 when he was like, we gotta put in Drew Lock. What would you tell week 2, 3 of your dad why Pete is the truth, even though he didn't see it until now, week 6?
Well, what I'll say is that Pete has proven to be elite at identifying players who are capable of performing above their station and motivating them to do it, using things like people being underrated or ignored or passed by as motivators to get people to get the best out of people. We've seen it time after time. Is Richard Sherman on any other team?
Likely no.
You know what I mean? Like, he knows what he's doing. He knows how to take a guy who hasn't had the best go at it so far, a guy that he knows is talented and capable of it. A guy like Mike Williams, who was all but done and written off, and we ended up getting a really good season out of him. A guy like Marshawn Lynch, who probably wasn't long for this league in Buffalo, and getting him to turn himself into a Hall of Fame level player. Pete isn't the only coach that can do this kind of stuff, but he's proven to be very good at it. And he's also very good at finding ways to mask players' deficiencies, finding ways to pick up the slack where somebody may be lacking. And I think we're seeing firsthand right now how much more he propped up Russell Wilson than the other way around, which is what probably the majority of fans and members of Seahawks Twitter or whatever you want to call it, or even just the mediaverse altogether, most people probably believed it was the other way around, and that Russell Wilson was the one doing it all and making things look better than they really were. But I think we know, and I think the rest of the world is seeing now, that it was Pete. Pete protected Russell. Pete put Russell in a position to perform ahead, probably better than he should have. And those two traits alone make Pete one of the best head coaches in this league, and probably of all time.
Well said. I think it's really interesting, and you mentioned something that I'd really been thinking about a lot with all the news that had been coming out. So to kind of bring it up to speed for some people, on Monday night, Russell Wilson, the Denver Broncos plays the Los Angeles Chargers. I don't know if any of you watched that game, but it was boring. It was boring. Overtime was boring. Like, no one wanted to score. defenses look good, but the offenses just were putrid. Like, there was just nothing exciting about that game. It was a real snooze fest. I think it was all field goals and like one touchdown each is what we really saw. But what stuck out to me is now that people are kind of saying like, hey, you know, there's something wrong with Russell Wilson. He's not the Russell Wilson of old. He's not the person we saw coming back and like creating a masterful drive and having all these, you know, comeback wins that we as Seahawks fans had been so accustomed to. But it raised the question is, was Pete holding Russ back? And we're seeing the case where it's not really that at all, because the offense that we're seeing from the Seahawks, the biggest difference I can see is that we're using our tight ends a way more. Like in that Arizona game, because DK and Tyler were getting blanketed and our tackles were having an issue, we used our tight ends way more. So they got more targets, they got more catches than DK and Tyler did. And I think that goes to show that Pete wants the guy that runs the system, and I'm not saying Russ is a system quarterback, but I think now that you see Russ out of the system and Geno in the system, and the stats that we're seeing from Geno are very similar to what we saw as Russ as a Seahawk, and then Russ out of the system, who was given the key to everything in Denver land, and they're struggling. They're the worst offense in the NFL. I think that says a lot. I think it's it just speaks to what Pete has done, what he has built, and what he is capable of. And I think he's the truth. I've always been a fan of Pete. I would have always, you know, in this situation, picking between Russ and Pete, I'm glad that we picked Pete. I'm glad that so many people out there, especially the pundits that wrote the Seahawks off, are eating crow and starting to see that what Pete does, the culture that he creates, and the players and how he cultivates them, that's what brings this success. It's not just one player. And I'm excited for these remaining, we have 11 more games? I'm looking forward to them.
Oh my God! Did you say 11, dude? Hello. There's 21. There's 15 more games, assuming we go to the Super Bowl.
That's true. I want to say real quick about the Monday night game. Russ started off really good. He was 10 for 10 for like 116 yards and a touchdown, and I thought for a second maybe they were getting it together. But then he literally completed, I think, maybe 5 more passes after that for the rest of the game for like 15 yards. Yeah. Like, he did nothing after that.
Yeah.
But, you know, okay, I want to say this real quick. I know we're not really talking about Russell, but I was listening to Sean King on the radio today, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback.
Okay.
And he
that dude gives me... I have trauma. I have Sean King trauma.
Yeah. He was talking about Russell. And I really liked his thoughts, which basically were that Russell may not be the player that he was. He may have aged quicker than he should have. Like, he obviously didn't age as gracefully as Tom Brady, right? But overall, no matter what anybody has to say about Russell right now, he's getting it from all angles. But overall, Russell has won. He has succeeded so much farther than anybody ever thought he would, or that he was probably even supposed to. He had to switch schools to be able to play. He was never supposed to be anything more than a backup. And the guy came in and he won a Super Bowl, went to 2 of them. Pretty much is or was at least on a Hall of Fame trajectory. So, you know, whatever. People are being hard on Russell. That's fine. People are going to do what they're going to do. But ultimately, the guy has lived a pretty goddamn successful adult life, and he's got nothing to be ashamed of.
I think that's a good call out. And I think it's for me, when Russ does return to Seattle as a Ring of Honor member, I do think he's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame one day. For now, that's all stuff that I'm ready to accept in the future. But for now, I'm enjoying his, you know, lack of success. I'm enjoying the fact that Nathaniel Hackett looks like he's well over his head. I am enjoying that we are hearing all these ideas that the Denver Broncos are potentially going to like fall apart because they have the number 4 scoring defense, which means they're giving there's 28 more teams that are giving up more points than they are, but they have the worst offense in the NFL. And right or wrong, that's always going to fall to the head coach, and it's going to fall to Russ. And for now, the Broncos are probably more attached to Russ than they are Nathaniel Hackett, just due to the contracts that they've signed.
Oh yeah, I'm just happy that it looks like the front office made the right decision, and that it looks like we are benefiting and probably will benefit long term from making that move. So the fact that it's a net positive for us is great.
I mean, it's more than like a net positive. I mean, the timing and the results so far make John and Pete look absolutely like psychic or something. I mean, or magicians or something, because you trade a guy that, you know, other teams offered, like, you know, Russ wouldn't go there, but like Washington apparently offered 3 number ones. So it's like a guy. It's not like everybody realized. Like, everybody still valued him very, very high, but you get rid of him either A, knowing, okay, he's past his prime and is not that anymore, or B, knowing the whole time that it's partly me. You know, if you're Pete, you're thinking like, it's partly me and my system and our guys that are enabling this. So when he goes, he's probably not gonna be that good. So either they knew that, or they suspected it, or whatever. But man, it to get 2 number ones, 2 number twos, a 5th rounder, and 2 starters and a guy.
Shelby Harris is a starter. Noah Fant, I'm still iffy on, and Drew Lock is a serviceable backup. I think those are
like Fant is a starter depending on what the formation is to start the game. I mean, he's in the rotation.
I am more impressed with Will Dissly and Cody Parkinson than I am with Noah Fant. I'll give him some slack because it's his first year in our system, but I mean, he's catching his 5-yard passes, but he's not doing a whole lot with them. That's.
I think you're being a little harsh. I mean,
I think that's fair, but Will Dissly and Cody Parkinson, they're getting less targets, but they're doing more with their catches.
Well, yeah, but that's the routes they're being given as well, right? And it's also like they're usually on the field. There's at least usually 2 tight ends at the time when a tight end gets a catch. So
yeah,
they're going to the tight end. I mean, like, if Fant goes out and Dissly goes out, and like Fant overall, I mean, there's no arguing that Fant is a better athlete. So they put like their safety on him, but they put a slow linebacker on Dissly. So Dissly gets the big catch and goes for the big yards. I mean, so Fant, you didn't do anything with your route. You probably opened things up for Dissly.
Or
just a perspective.
Or just kidding. All right, let's move on to topic number 2.
Just never realized it. I mean,
topic number 2, Zeb. I want to know: was this the game that turns the defense around? 3 offensive points given up. The only touchdown scored was a special teams blunder that we'll talk about in the predictions. Is this the defense that we are going to see moving forward, where they're going to shut teams down?
I think it might be a bit much to ask for them to replicate that performance going forward, but I do think that it was a huge step in the right direction. And I think that it's definitely going to do a lot for just the overall morale of the defense and the team in general. And I do expect them to continue to get better. They're not going to hold everybody to 3 points. And as you mentioned earlier, there's a lot to be said about the way the Cardinals handled their offensive game plan. I'm not gonna crown the defense at this point yet. There's a lot of games left to play, but it was super positive and great to see. And I do think that they are going to continue to improve.
Oh man, Dennis Green is on the sidelines ready to crown him, I feel like. But
I think we can expect better performances going forward from this defense for sure.
What do you think about the defense that you think is going to either show better consistency or going to continue to show their strong presence so far? Is it coverage in the secondary? Is it the pass rush looking a little better? Is it the run defense? Like, what aspect do you think, like, hey, of all the things that we saw on that Cardinals game, I think we'll see it in the Chargers game and other games moving forward?
Well, I don't know. I can't speak on the details, but I know that it appears as though Pete kind of went in there this last week and kind of took a little more control over what was going on the field. I think he had let Hurt and Desai kind of do what they were going to do, and we saw a very different defense than we were used to. But this past weekend, it was much more reminiscent of the Pete Carroll defenses. I think he moved some guys around on the line. Puna, in particular, I believe, was put into a better position, and it showed.
He had a great game.
We got a great game out of our defensive line, and we got less Cody Barton, and we saw Brooks probably have his best game of the season so far. And then we're just seeing the growth and maturing of our young guys in the secondary, and they're, man, I mean, I'm not ready to make any bold claims, but Woolen in particular, but also Kobe, look to be high quality NFL players at the very minimum. So
like Kobe had like 12 rebounds.
Right. Yeah, I mean he dropped like 81 points. But no, it seems as though the defense is coming together. I think we're still missing a piece or two. Obviously we'll never know what having this full secondary together would be like. And we are still a little weak at linebacker, but man, just whatever changes they made last week going into that game seem to have worked, and I hope they stick with what they're doing there. And if we can stay healthy, I think we're going to get Trey Brown back, right? That's gonna
coming back in a couple of weeks is the rumor. Travis Homer going to come back maybe next week or the week after as well.
Yeah, see, I'm feeling like I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm feeling like it's okay to be optimistic about this team continuing to improve at this point, and in particular the defense. So that's all great news.
Ross, is this the game that the defense turns around? Zeb had mentioned that Pete was a little bit more hands-on, and a lot of people that are anti-Pete kind of say like he meddles too much. But that defense looked more like a Pete Carroll defense. Is this the game that we are going to see that turnaround?
I mean, I would be absolutely shocked if we ever gave up more than a field goal a game the rest of the way. Just kidding. I mean, we were playing the Cardinals, man. They don't. Have you ever seen a team do less with so much? I mean, how many you have, I guess, but holy cow. You actually have to have a playbook. I guess this isn't about the Cardinals. I want to believe everything that Zeb is telling us, but I have some serious doubts because Arizona is not. I mean, we used to say like Russ can't really run an NFL playbook, an NFL style playbook, and he can't, but he can run an offense. But like Cliff has like sort of like poor man's Russ, and he's got like a poor man's Russ offense running out there. So I don't know. I want to believe. I'm nervous. I don't know if that actually meant anything. Beat up on a bunch of JV dudes and see what happens. And it's just the Cardinals make it easy.
If the JV team is on the schedule, they're on the schedule, and that's a win. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you can only beat the team on your schedule. I'm not trying to discount that. I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to find the significance. I don't discount the win. I mean, they're all talented people. And like I've said several times before, like, more than anything, really just depends on who's out there. So there is that, and because of that, I do have some hope. I just don't know how many lessons there are. Yeah, we saw less Cody Barton, but I think that's more a function of the fact that Ryan Neal and the other safety have finally had. I don't think in the first game they'd had up to that point, like they had enough faith that everybody had practiced enough with some of the formations. So I think it was less about like they think the Barton's a liability and more about like they actually have some confidence in these dudes that are replacing Jamal. So, and that's a good sign. I mean, that is a good thing. And like obviously the rookies that are out there, every game they play, it's wow. Now they've played 20% more than they've ever played before, right? So that's good. That's great. I don't expect though that Woolen is going to have an interception like every game.
I don't know, man. 4 in a row already.
I know. I mean, it's funny because Pete said the same thing last week. He's like, Pete's like, well, I don't, there's no way he's going to get one next week. You can't expect 4 in a row. And then he goes out and gets 4 in a row. And I don't think that Kobe can keep causing fumbles at this rate. But maybe somebody else will. Maybe, like, gosh, it would be really great to see Jordan Brooks make, like, a truly, I think he had one impact play last game, but I can't remember what it was. But I do remember thinking, wow, an impact play by Jordan Brooks. Wow. First one all year. I'd love to see Brooks, like have some impact because he was supposed to be our next star linebacker. I don't know. I think we're going to be leaning on Geno and the guys to score a lot of points every game until the second half of the season. I think we're still some steps away. That's my view. I don't think they turned a corner yet. To be honest.
Man,
you sorry. Guys... I think it has a lot to do with like Kyler Murray and his bad mechanics and his like watching too many videos of young Russ and thinking he can do that and he can't, and he doesn't have the connection with the receivers, and Rondell Moore is no young Doug Baldwin, and it's just yeah, it was a mess, man. I almost felt embarrassed watching Arizona, like quote unquote offense. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, what's the concept on that? Why do you have 3 receivers in the same 5 yards?
Oh, you guys, you know what?
Like, if Tariq Woolen can cover all 3 wide receivers running because they all run to the same spot, like, what have you proven? Like, Sorry.
You guys are no fun. There is so much to be excited about this defense, but realistically, yes. It is unexpected to see the defensive performance. Just to give, like, a little bit of insight. 6 sacks from 6 different players. Shelby Harris, Quentin Jefferson, Uchenna Nwosu, Ryan Neal from the safety, and Darryl Taylor.
Yes. Ryan's my favorite dude.
Poona Ford. I mean, you had 6 sacks. 4 of them are on the defensive line. 1's from the safety, and 1's the linebacker. So that's...
I'm not going to interrupt you, but I'm going to say I have a question for you later. Remind me.
And then you add, there was 4 pass deflections. Poona had a pass deflection. Ryan Neal, Kobe Bryant, Tariq Woolen. Tariq Woolen had his 4th interception in a row. Kobe Bryant punched the ball out on a Kyler Murray run, and Tariq Woolen recovers. There's a lot to be excited, but yes, to expect this every week and to expect this is now the standard, I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that Cliff Kingsbury is just kind of a bad coach. Normally we see this kind of like coaching in the second half of the season, but it happened here because Cliff Kingsbury has had like great first halves. He started 8-0, he started 7-1, he started 6-2 in the first half of the season, then he's just kind of fallen off the rails at the end of the year. So to see this happen in week 6 against the Cardinals is kind of surprising because everything the Seahawks did, except for that first drive, it worked. Like, the only huge play that the Cardinals had was a Kyler Murray run for 42 yards. They did convert a lot of 3rd and shorts. They were like 9 out of 12 at one point, but they came away with 3 offensive points. They turned down, I think, at least 2 field goals, so it would have been like, a 1-score game at the end of it. But everything Seattle wanted to do defensively, once it kind of got into rhythm, they had a chance to do it. And I think their defense played well enough so that, it made it difficult for the Seahawks offense. But just seeing the rookies at the corner position, how well they're playing, we're seeing the impacts of Boye Mafe. He's not starting, but he's making an impact. We're seeing Uchenna Nwosu be one of our best defensive players, and he's, the first year in his deal with us. So I think there are all these things that are really exciting. And while I'd like to think that, having less Cody Barton is a part of it, I know that's not true, even though I'm not a Cody Barton fan. But a lot of it had to do with Seattle just played its hand well. And if that's Pete meddling, then I want more of that. I want Clint Hurt. I want Desai to learn from Pete and say, you know what? There's a way that we could merge Pete's philosophy, but still have our fingerprints on it. Just like Pete can say, like, this is how I want us to play, but I still want you to be able to take credit to take control, because that's who Pete is. But to see this game after the previous 3 games where we saw the defense really struggle, just having a really hard time, it was really encouraging to see. there's a lot of season to be played, but I think you have to be encouraged. Not that this is the expectation, but to show that this is something that they're capable of doing under the right circumstances. And I think that's the key point. Under the right circumstances, this is a defense that can play like this all the time. And credit to fantasy managers out there that played the Seahawks defense.
Thank you very much.
I almost lost to Ross. I think it was like a 10-point loss. It actually was a greater loss, but then they did a point adjustment so that you actually gained 7 more points on your defense. So my win was not as great due to the stat correction.
17 points off my defense, yo.
That's a good game from the defense.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So, if you're like Al Wood, Woods? Is there an S in his name?
Woods, S at the end.
Woods. Like just like Max Strong, if you're like that guy, those guys always become sort of like local legends and folk heroes and fan favorites and whatnot. But he was not in this game.
I was surprised by that. Yeah.
He was not in the game. Now, he is the traditional nose tackle. He's the best traditional nose tackle. If you're going to run 3-4, he's the only guy we have actually that can kind of do that. Go up there and take up multiple blockers. But he wasn't there. And Monet played out of his mind and really, really well. And Puna Ford made me look like an idiot because just before the game started, I think I sent you guys actually the message saying the 3-4 that we run completely takes away Puna Ford's game. And then he went out and like had a sack and a deflected pass and like was in the backfield over and over again. And I look like an idiot. So going forward, should Monet be the starter? Was that part of the defensive line? 6 sacks.
Yeah.
With Monet in there and they affecting the balance. Was that part of it? Should Monet be the starter going forward? Alwood only comes in as a breather and on the really obvious like running situations, or
it could be that they wanted someone a little bit more nimble against someone like Kyler Murray, who is going to.
I think Al Woods was semi-hurt.
Okay.
Yeah, Woods was hurt.
Yes.
He's
playing. So it wasn't a healthy scratch, right?
No, it was not a healthy scratch.
I don't think there's any way that they're starting Monet over Woods at this point.
But Monet was awesome, and with the chemistry.
You know what, though? This is how you fix it. You rotate Monet, you rotate Shelby, you rotate in Al Woods, and you make Cody Barton inactive. And then I'm really happy because he can't be on the field, and I can't complain about him at all. I think
Shelby they mostly play on the outside actually so far because he's a 4-3 defensive tackle.
Right.
I haven't paid too much attention, but I suspect they play him mostly on the outside, like they do with Puna Ford. Puna Ford plays end now. I mean,
yeah,
what?
And the 3-4. So the one thing that I saw online is that a lot of things that Seattle has done in the past when they've made like this defensive change, and it's always kind of like when Pete comes into play, this is kind of what happens with the defense, and they play. It's called the bear front, where they have almost 5 guys on the line. And Ross, you know this better than I do. I'm really just kind of reiterating what people have told me. That seems to be something that it does a few things where, because you have so many guys on the line, it reduces those edge plays, because Seattle would get beat on runs outside of the tackles by the Rams and the Niners, and this addresses a lot of that. And that also helps to contain someone like Kyler Murray, who is quick and nimble and can get on the outside. I wonder if that is the play moving forward, where Pete says, like, hey, I showed you guys the template, now make it yours, but you still play within this sandbox.
To me, I just saw some more disciplined play from the outside linebackers. Like it was all about contain, even though we ended up with 6 sacks. But, up to now, even when it was hard to tell, they were getting beat personally, just one-on-one on their blocks, so you couldn't really tell. But it looked like they were not trying to if you're the outside linebacker in 3-4, you really got to move forward straight or forward and to your outside shoulder. but they were moving to their inside shoulder, and so you're losing contain over and over and over again. But I couldn't tell if that's what they were doing on purpose, or they were like undisciplined, or if they were just getting moved around by the blockers too much. But yeah, I mean, if it was like a purposeful thing, that's a great. I mean, that would you guys would be right, and maybe this is part of the. Hey, they've made some adjustments, and that's going to work forward. But again, for me, I just felt like so much of this was like, how many of those sacks were like Kyler Murray induced or like Cliff induced? Like that dude has never seen a waggle he won't call. Like he just thinks he's going to do like a bootleg, but misdirection first is called a waggle. Like that dude like just loves waggles.
Yeah, I would if I recall, because if I recall, and I rewatched just like the YouTube short clip highlights, and they show all the sacks. More than half of the sacks, like they just got to Kyler like really quickly. There are a few that were maybe coverage sacks where they were able to contain him in the pocket, and then the interior collapses and they just kind of like engulf him. But like there were a few that were just like they got the blitz, they got the sack. Like Ryan Neal is an example where they had Darryl Taylor and Ryan Neal on the line on the left side defensively, and they both rush. Right. They don't have enough blockers. The right tackle engages Taylor,
and they don't.
Yeah, they don't have the guy kick out. They don't have the guard kick out to cover the interior rush. And Ryan Neal basically just go. He has to loop behind the guard, but he basically gets Kyler Murray from behind, and it was just like a perfect clean sack.
And it wasn't like it was like disguised. They're right there, and Kyler doesn't audible. Doesn't. I don't understand. Like he doesn't adjust the. They don't adjust.
Yeah.
And he doesn't move, and like.
Or it could be that they thought they had a beater, but the beater was covered. Like that's a common thing.
It could be. But like it didn't look. I mean, it doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like they know what. If you think like Russell Wilson can't see, like how much can like that dude not see? First of all, like the helmet's always too big for him. It's like sliding down over his eyes.
We gotta
giving him like adult-sized helmets.
We have to push ahead. We're running a little bit late here, but we are going to move to topic number 3, the Hawks Cast Corner. And Zeb, I need to know from you: are the Seahawks playing above their 3-3 record? Like, is this where you thought they would be 6 weeks into the season? When we looked at the schedule and we said, like, hey, these are some tough games. There are some games that are a little bit easier, but we're 3-3 right now.
I think that my expectations for this season were around a 500 record. So I don't know that I thought we'd be 3-3 at this point. Maybe it takes a little longer to come together. Not that it's come all the way together by any means, but I think it's about right. I mean, you could also look at it and say that maybe we should have won a couple of games that we lost. And then what kind of record are we looking at? Right? Like we were close. We had outside of the Niners game, we could potentially be 5-1. So, I think it's about right. I still feel like 8 to 9 is about the magic number for the season. But I'm cautiously optimistic that things could turn out better than that. But as of right now, I'm happy where they're at. I'm enjoying seeing the improvement. Things are going well. To be tied for first place in the division, you can't be mad at that at all.
So you said they were an 8 to 9 win team. Is 8 your floor and 9's your ceiling? Is that kind of where you're at?
Not necessarily. I think I expect them to end up around there. I think early in the season, my floor was probably around 5 or 6.
Okay,
but I don't think unless there's just disaster, I think we're definitely pushing more towards 8 or 9.
Fair enough. Ross, what about you? Are the Seahawks playing above their 3-3 record?
Like, are they overachieving?
Yeah, are they overachieving? Because and maybe this is different. So we're talking about this as Seahawks fan, not as like national pundits who said that Geno Smith was like the 50th quarterback in the
NFL. It's funny because like before the season, I mean, I guess I said 7 or 8, and that's like they're slightly ahead of pace for what I predicted, but it feels way more positive than that, if that makes sense.
I understand.
they're just doing just a tad better than what I had sort of predicted. But maybe in the way they're doing it makes me feel so much better. My floor, I think I said was 6, but in my deep heart of hearts, my floor was 4. And I spent time wondering and worrying if like Austin was right. And now that, Russ has gone nothing, they're never going to score a touchdown again. And, Michael Dixon's going to be our MVP. And I was really there. I wasn't really deeply worried about that, but there was a corner in my darkest of hearts that I was worried about that. So, I mean, all I'll say really is that like this is the best feeling at 3-3 I've had for 10 years. I mean, like, at most years, like if we were 3-3 with Russ and with especially a few years ago with Doug Baldwin and the gang and the aging LOB, I would have been like 3-3. Yeah, we'll pull it together.
Right.
This 3-3 feels like the best of all drugs. Like I just feel so awesome at 3-3. That's weird.
I think the best way to kind of expound upon what you said, Ross, is the fact that we have a lot of things that, even though 3-3 is not like the most amazing record, Geno is playing better than I think a lot of us anticipated. The rookie corners are playing, and they're impactful in a way that we did not expect from the get-go. Our offensive rookie tackles are looking adequate. And I think a lot of people say, like, well, that's not enough. It's like, no, they're rookies. Like, the fact that they're not getting beat on every play, that's a positive. And there's a lot of things that you'd like about their style of play. And I think that's why the 3-3 record feels so positive. Because not only are there good surprises and people playing above what we maybe would have expected from rookies and, players put in a position to succeed, but they are winning because of that. They're not winning every game. They're not 5-1, which again, we're talking about 2 scores in 2 games, and it's, a potentially 5-1 record, which would be really playing above their record. But I think that's why, at least that's how I feel, to expand on what you said, Ross, is like, yeah, this 3-3 feels super positive, super enjoyable, and it's something that we can build off of that, not only is this good for the rest of this year, but this is something to build off in 2023 as well. So that's how I feel about the record, and I'm excited. My floor was 6 and my ceiling was 9, because I kind of feel that, Pete's just too good of a coach to just let the team flounder. So we're already halfway to my floor. If they get to 8 wins, I will consider that to be quite a major feat, just due to the fact that this team is still flawed. There's a lot of season to be played, but I think they can get there. And I think getting to 9 wins, they had to have everything work. And I don't think we're there yet, but I'm very, very positive mindset that they're going to get to 7-8 wins pretty easily this year, if this is the team that we're going to face and we're going to play week after week.
Part of it also is that the NFC West doesn't look as strong as it did.
No, right? I mean the fact that Geno's the best quarterback, the fact that Geno's the best quarterback in the division right now says a lot.
Like the Rams, I don't know what's fallen, what happened there, but the wheels have fallen off in LA, and Kyler's late season collapse is happening early, and the 49ers look good, especially on defense, but they don't look amazing.
No. I think the issue with the Rams, from what I can tell, is that they only have Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee. They don't have a second wide receiver. Their running game is so inconsistent. They basically have booted off Cam Akers, which, RIP to fantasy.
They didn't have Cam Akers last year.
But they're going to rely on Darrell Henderson, and he hasn't been able to stay healthy, I believe. So I think they're running into issues that, they're not able to fix, because, they're running into issues that a lot of other teams coming off a Super Bowl run into, is they can't keep the band together, and they have been able to replace them with players that are as good or better than the ones that have left, which is
I don't know why they don't just beg and plead and offer even more money to get OBJ back. You need him. Wait too long.
I think it's one of those cases where OBJ is going to say, like, look, you guys are 2-2. Matt Stafford's not playing well. I'm going to play for the best team that wants me. I mean, that's the way that I would look at it. So, I mean, they don't have Von Miller. Their defense still has.
But you told me last week that you guys told me last week I was dumb and that players are going to go to whoever gives them the most money. Give him the most money.
Well, he's got his trophy already, so
That's what I said last week, and I was wrong apparently.
All right, well, we are going to move ahead to the final topic of the night, and that is the Los Angeles Chargers. I've finally gotten that down that I don't call them the San Diego Chargers anymore, so going to give a quick kudo to me. Russ, I believe, is this for you? Are you starting first, correct?
Yeah.
Whatever you want me to do, buddy.
All right. So, Ross, are the Chargers going to be the first true test for this Seahawks team this season? We had a lot of early diagnosis that the Broncos were going to be amazing, that the Niners were going to be amazing, that the Cardinals were going to be amazing. Is this the first true test for the Seahawks this year?
I mean, the Niners were a true test, I thought, but I mean, it'd be interesting. It'd be a different kind of test, yeah. Go against the rest of the NFL, see what you're like. That's a pretty good team out there. Good young quarterback. They can do a lot of things, a lot of talent. It'll be a very, very different game because, this is obviously because of how the schedule goes now. You don't play them that often. I was at that horrible 120-degree game in San Diego a few years ago.
I think it was 147 on the field.
It was just, and they ran out of water. I think I've told you guys this story a million times, but
I can't believe that.
They ran out of water in the concession stands, and there's no shade where we're sitting. The sun just beats down mercilessly in that old stadium. I don't like the fact that they're in LA now, but man, if that's the best San Diego could offer, yeah, get out. It was awful. It was a horrible, horrible stadium. Horrible, horrible game. 100-year-old tight end just kicked our butt. Oh, it was a really frustrating day. But it was cool. And then the trip was cool. The trip was cool. Arrows came down. A whole bunch of us were there.
Did you get out to the gas lamp district?
Not that trip. No, we didn't. We went to some Seahawk bar.
Nice.
And Jesse's fiance at the time, wife now, accidentally left her credit card there, and we opened a tab. Jesse's girl, you wish you had her. Yeah, it was cool. It was a good trip. I met a lot of people for the first time, a lot of the people from the other site, and it was cool. It was a good trip, except the game itself. Game itself was sunlit terror, horror. But it was. This week though, they're a pretty fun, exciting, youngish team, right? I have a lot of players on the team that I like. I like their third wide receiver Palmer. I like Mike Williams.
He's concussed. He's concussed. He's not going to play Sunday.
Is Keenan going to play?
Keenan is a questionable to start. Apparently, he has been practicing, and that is a sign that he's going to potentially be available. But it's not a full go. So,
right.
They don't have Joey Bosa. He's on the IR. They don't have a tackle. So there.
I think isn't Everett playing for them now?
Yes. Yeah, he's good.
Gerald Everett is playing for him now. He's having quite a good year. Not good enough, but good.
He's pushing. He's on pace for career numbers. That dude would probably be eating more with Geno, honestly. But
I would probably agree. But would he be dropping passes like he did with Russ?
That was the thing. He just drops it in the critical moments too.
He had three balls that resulted in turnovers because he was a target.
Yeah. In one game. How do you? I mean, that's Jermaine Kearse territory.
Yeah, and Jermaine Kearse won a game-winning touchdown. Gerald Everett never made up for it. So yeah,
you know what?
So you're out. You're out.
I actually agree with Ross that I think the Niners were our first real test because at that point in the season and the fact that we probably did ourselves a disservice by hurting Trey Lance. That defense, things have kind of gotten worse over there for them since then. But I think healthy, that defense is one of the best in the league. And, I mean, they just worked us from every angle.
Yeah, and Garoppolo being in definitely makes them a better team.
Right. And I would argue that the fact that we lost to the Saints and the Falcons, those were probably real tests too. Otherwise, maybe we wouldn't have won. But no, obviously, the Chargers are not having the season so far that I think most people expected them to. They're cool, they're good, but I think people were expecting them to be a top 2 or 3 team in the AFC, or at least.
It feels like there's a lot of teams that are not as good.
Yeah, exactly. But they do have Austin Eckler, and Justin Herbert's a great quarterback, a great young quarterback. So I do think it's going to be a tough game for us.
This is going to be really like a test and a, whatever you want to call it, of Pete's philosophy, because this is really like if we can shut down Eckler, I think that make them one-dimensional, then we're in a really good spot.
Do you think it's going to be a true test?
I mean, I almost want to rephrase the question, because we're almost like in a different phase of the team now, right? Okay, we got that first section out. We're sort of like figured out what we're going to be, and we know that Geno can do this for real. So now we're not like in the, desperation season, here it goes kind of phase. We're now like in like, whoa, okay, we're better than we thought. What can we be?
Yeah, let's win.
So in that, so let's go get some, see if we can. And in that sense, I guess it is a sort of a test of like, okay, here's where we're at. Let's open this up second third of the season and kind of see if we can keep this going. In that sense, it's a test of like where we are now. Is this team growing, or is this just like what we're going to cap out at? And in that way, it's a test, and it's a good team to test it against, because they're not complete, so they're not going to dominate us. If Bosa was out there, we might have some problems with Ricky, tackles, but they've got some weapons, so it's not going to be. It's going to be if we can see if our players can match up on them, win those battles, see if our coaches can put our players in position to win, and I'm looking forward to it.
Sam, your thoughts on this game against the Chargers?
I am hopeful, because this is a game where they have a lot of key injuries. They're playing with a backup tackle. They're playing without their best defensive player. Justin Herbert, while he's getting healthy, he's still dealing with like a bruised cartilage rib or whatever happened to him in week 1. Justin Herbert hasn't been great. A lot of people have been attributed to the fact that Keenan Allen has not played since week 1. So RIP to Keenan Allen fantasy owners out there. He's limited practice, so there's a potential chance that he's going to be a full go in this game, which could really change. And, I don't know who I would characterize as the best wide receiver that, Tariq Woolen has really been challenged with, but, we know he hasn't been perfect. He's given up a lot of penalties, and, for the most part, I think he's had a positive year, but Keenan Allen is one of those like savvy vets that you like, how's he always get open for 7 yards when they just needed 6 on third down? Like, that's the kind of guy I think will be a true challenge for the Seattle defense. And I think it'll be a good test. And what I mean by that is it is a chance for us to see if this is a team that we're going to have for the rest of the year. They're going to be much more competitive in the games than a lot of the games we expected, especially against a team like the Chargers, who people expected to do a lot of damage this year. They are 4-2, so it's not like they have a bad record. So I'm looking forward to it. I still have questions about what is really the team and how much they can do, but I think they're going to put up a good showing. I think it will be a closer match than we all anticipated. Currently, the spread's like 6.5 in favor of the Chargers, which I think is like way too many points. But I would never put money on it. But we'll see.
We will see. We're gonna see on Sunday.
It's amazing every week, right?
Yeah, it's wild. We talk about it on Wednesday, and then boom, it happens.
It's amazing. It's like there's a schedule or something out there.
I think we're just lucky.
I count my blessings every day. Final thoughts on the Chargers.
I like the Chargers. I've always liked the Chargers. I wish they were still in San Diego.
Do you like the powder blue?
I do. I don't like it as much as the dark blue. I love the Dan Fouts era uniforms, but whatever.
Yes.
I too was at a game in San Diego versus the Chargers, and I had a great time. And the weather was beautiful, and I didn't have any of those issues with the glaring sun because it was an evening game and it was moderate temperature outside.
Nice.
Very nice. Ross, are you a fan of the powder blue jerseys?
I don't mind them, but I'm a down Fouts era dude. Yeah, Beck Muncie, John Jefferson.
I think they're great when they were like the alternate jersey, not as like their main one. I'm a bigger fan of like the dark navy with the
dark
with the gold,
too.
Not the powder blue with like the brighter yellow. So
yeah, I'm with you on that. Like give me a treat once in a while, but for like, every day, every week kind of thing, give me the John Jefferson, Kellen Winslow.
I'm a much bigger fan of like darker jersey colors than I am of like, you know, kind of more Thursday night action green style colors. So just showing my age, maybe.
They don't say much about action whatever anymore, do they? They don't say like what was it called?
Action green is the official color of the Seahawks green.
No, but I mean like the on Thursday night they used to like say
the color rush.
Yeah, they've kind of let that go by the wayside finally.
I think they've just kind of determined like, hey, if you're playing in a primetime game, you can play with your crazy jerseys.
When half the team started cheating with it and making it like basically white and black, and they were like, okay, you guys aren't into it, fine.
Yeah. All right, well, those are our topics, and it is time for some predictions. So, Ross, I'm going to hit you up with the first prediction. What is the final score? Seahawks at Chargers.
I think we kind of go off a little bit. 38-31.
Nice.
34-27.
All right.
Seahawks. So
yeah, both of you are picking the Seahawks to win. I like a score in the 30s. I think if Seattle scores in the 30s, I think it would be really competitive, but I'm still not sure if we're completely there. So I'm going to go 37-34 Chargers. So
you predicted the lose last week too, dude.
Yep, and the week before that.
Well, you know what? If that's what helps the Seahawks win, I will predict us to lose every game from now on.
I like it. I say stick with it.
All right, Ross. Over under 7.5 combined targets for. Actually, no. I'm sorry. 7.5 combined catches for Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. They only had 3 in this previous game.
Yeah. Over.
All right. Zeb, over under 7.5 combined catches for Lockett and Metcalf.
Over.
I'll go one step further. Like I predict over just for Lockett himself.
Whoa. That's a good game. And I know Ross has Ross, do you have Tyler Lockett on your fantasy team?
I do.
Yeah. I think I
traded away DK.
I've been trying to get Tyler Lockett from you, I believe, and it's not been successful. Maybe I'll dangle Pat Mahomes at you. I'm going to say yes. I think that DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett will both do well in this game because I think it's a good matchup because J.C. Jackson is the corner that I messed up. That the Los Angeles Chargers signed, and he apparently is having a terrible season. So
he got benched.
Yeah. He got benched, and the guy that replaced him had 4 pass interferences. So, hopefully, that's something that we could take advantage of. Ross,
but J.C. Jackson's giving up 150, like a passer rating of 155.3 on passes against him. A perfect rating is 158. So, I mean, Jesus.
Yeah. Ross,
you're just better than air. You're like 0.4 better than air. As a defender, like wow.
All right. Over under 18.5 rushing attempts from one Mr. Kenneth Walker III.
Rushing attempts or touches?
Rushing attempts.
I don't think they're going to go away from it, but that's a lot in today's NFL, and I feel like it's going to be a bit of a track meet, so I'm going to go under.
Okay.
Hair under.
Zeb, what about you? 18.5 rushing attempts for K9.
Yeah, I think under. I think he's going to get his yards, but I don't think it's going to take that many carries.
And I think he'll get some touches. I think 3 receptions from this game.
Yeah, the kid can catch.
I am also of the mindset that I think that at this point, a lot of rushes, especially, it's just very unlikely. I'm going to go with the under as well. Ross, over under 72.5% completion percentage for Geno. He had his lowest completion percentage of the season last week.
Yeah, I think we have to see some natural regression. I'm going to go under.
All right.
I think it's gonna. I think we should be expecting around like 2/3, like 66, 67%. Yeah.
Zeb, what about you? 72.5% completion percentage, over under for Mr. Geno Smith.
Yeah, under. I'm of the same mind. It was great when it was like
79%.
Yeah, but you can't expect that. Not in the NFL.
You can't sustain that.
I am going to go the opposite. I'm going to say over because J.C. Jackson, if he's out on the field, Seahawks are going to attack him. He's not going to do well. DK is going to bully him. Just going to get easy catches to Noah Fant, Cody Parkinson, and Will Dissly, and it's going to be great.
I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, they are manufacturing some of those, like you said, easy things and rubbing people open and 3 tight ends. And what are you going to do now?
Yeah, it's been great. All right, final prediction for the evening, Ross. Over under 1.5 special team gaps. Our special teams have not been particularly good in coverage, and we've had a bunch of issues this year. They've been good in other facets, but are we going to see 1.5 gaps in this game?
I'm going to take the under, but not be confident with it.
Okay. Michael
is having an eventful season.
He's going to allow for 1 gaff. I think that's fair. Zeb, what about you?
Yeah, I think there's going to be an effort, a strong effort to having a clean game this week. So I think they'll pull it together.
So
my favorite part of the game lately has been Michael Dixon messing up, and then the cameras show him for quite a long time on the sideline, and you can see he's trying to explain like what happened, like very sincerely to people, and he's got a kind of a smile on his face because he's Australian, so he can't help it. Like when he messes up, that's how he covers it, and it just looks like so awkward. He's just in there trying to explain to whoever's listening is just like nodding his head, but going like, "Yeah, dude, you just fucked up. Okay, just say it. Say it." Anyway.
In defense of Michael Dixon, he should have just taken the tackle, just taken a safety instead of tried to do anything with it.
Yeah.
But that's not his fault that a guy just runs up the center straight into his kicking lane. But I'm gonna go under for a different reason. I'm gonna go under because we're not gonna punt again. We're gonna have another game where Michael Dixon only is on the field to hold PATs and field goals. We're not gonna have a special teams gaff. This is the week, and it's gonna be because we don't even punt at all. We're gonna score, or we're gonna kick field goals, and that's the way our game's gonna go. My prediction is sticking to it.
But we could have some more Tyler. Well, I guess they don't even put Tyler Lockett. They were putting Tyler Lockett back at punt returns, and he fumbled. And now they're like, "Okay, you're done with that part of your career now."
Yeah, exactly.
Put that to bed for real now.
I'm all the happier for it.
Yeah. Okay.
And gentlemen, that is our show for the day. Final thoughts before we get to some shout-outs.
That's it.
we got them. I squeezed them all out. Perfect.
We got to it all, yeah.
Any shout-outs then?
Jeff. Jim Bob. My friend Jeff Jim Bob.
Shout out to Jeff Jim Bob. Ross, any shout outs for you today?
Shout out to all the candy manufacturers still ramping up for Halloween.
There it is.
Tony and Birdfinger.
Shout out to Tony. Shout out to Birdfinger. We are the Hawkscast.net podcast. We welcome your support. Check us out on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter at Seahawks Podcast or Seahawks Forum. Go to the website. We love and appreciate all the support as always. We wish everyone a Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Let's fly.
Russ stopped that now, so I have to stop.
So